most people. Yeah, I did. Good. And I'll just introduce them and then we go. Okay, there's Big Mustafa is the one that is working. I'm going to sit down. We'll just let them sit down. So the majority of these are also your students. They had an exam, so they. Yes. Six, maybe. So there was one in Clifton Park, there is one in Albany, one in Schenectady, this one. These are the centers. So there is different people in the market. These are all like I would say like Islamic centers. They have educational programs associated. Each one of them has. Yes. Yes. There's a full-time Islamic school, but there's also it's called the Islamic Center of the Capital District, which is one of the first Islamic center there, and they have yeah. Yes, exactly. The school is an independent building, K through 9 or K through 12. I think it's K through 12. Yeah. We'll start. How do I turn this on? Oh, it's on. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, you guys can hear me. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين محمد بن عبد الله الصادق الأمين اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد. Thank you everyone I want to thank everyone for coming and making the time to come to this important event and to really show your support not only for the community and not only for our educators, but more importantly for our kids and for our children going to the school district and learning about how we can impact and participate in their future. I also would like to thank the MPA representatives, some of them are here, for working tirelessly behind the scenes to help, foster the relationship with the school district and work with the school district on many projects to help, become engaged and help make it a seamless transition for our kids between here and the school, and really help our kids feel, connected to the school at the same time, maintaining their own identities and maintaining their Islamic identity as well. And the school district have been very receptive with us, and Sister Tabassum will go into that. But before that, I also would like to introduce our guests and welcome them. On my right is Matthew Stein. He's the Communication Director for the North Colonie School District. And Superintendent Kathleen Skeels, as most of you have met her here before, she recently became superintendent starting last year and has been to our mosque and been very engaged with us. And then on the far left is the president of the school board, Linda Harris, as well, a new face to our community. But we welcome all and thank you for coming and speaking to our community and giving us the chance to meet with you. Before I hand the microphone to Matthew and Kathleen for the presentation, I'd like Sister Tabassum just to come and give us a little bit of some of the projects and stuff that we've been doing with the school district, and to give you guys an update on that before we start what the Muslim Parent Association has been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to welcome all of you again. And I wanted to thank Superintendent Skeels for your leadership. In the time since we've known you, first as Deputy Superintendent and then now Superintendent, you've brought an equity lens to everything that you've done. And what we mean by equity is, so I just wanted to give a visual that I really like to, that sets the tone for it, is a bunch of kids looking over a wall to see a game, right? And they can't see, the wall is too high. And what we have always learned as equality is when each student is given a box to stand on, but it's the same box. And so some can see while standing on the box and others can. And what equity means is you give each child a box based on their need, based on their height, so that everyone can enjoy the game together. So I really think that you exemplify, your board and your leadership has exemplified that. And what that has meant for our students is, for example, at this point, each school has a prayer space. So when our kids need to perform their 5 daily prayers, if the prayer falls within the school day, they know a designated place where to go and pray. It's in each school, each school building. What that has mean it has been that the teachers and staff have actually given a lot of positive communication to the students on these facilities that are available to them. We've seen such a lot of positive messaging come out for Ramadan, making teachers aware. The MSA was given a voice to let teachers know, what accommodations they needed. What we have also seen is the fact that now there are halal meals being provided within the school district so that our children can have hot meals. That has meant such a lot. And then, to the school board and to you, Ms. Keels, the mentorship you provided to the MSA who is here, to advocate for having the Eid day off and, letting them know what the process is. They did it with your mentorship. You led them through but they took ownership of it. And you gave, you were very gracefully gave them that space to advocate for themselves. So, we really thank you for that leadership, and we are really excited to hear what you have planned for the high school. We know that that's a building that, is near to our heart. There's a lot of graduates here, and then, a lot of people, a lot of parents here who have children that will go through that school building. So please, if you can give us your vision of the school, and then we're excited to hear from you. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back here. I was thinking about it today. I think this is my 4th visit, and the welcome I receive every time is amazing. And I'm so proud to be able to partner with this community and do everything we can together to serve our children. So thank you for this opportunity. We do want to talk to you a little bit tonight about our capital project, which is going to look specifically at Shaker High School and how we can make improvements to our physical plant so that we can better serve our students. And one of the reasons that we are really concentrating on the high school is the growth in enrollment in the district. And to the students who are here, I know that they are very much aware of the growth of enrollment. And if you look at the slide, you can see in the last decade, the district as a whole has really grown. So we've grown by about 675 students in the last decade. But you can also see only 67 of those students were at the high school age. So we were starting with younger children, and then we're following that group up to middle school and now into high school. So by the end of next school year, the end of 24-25, we're expecting that the district will grow by another 240 students or so. But of those 240, 103 of those will be at the high school. And by the end of the decade, our forecasts are that we level out. We don't actually decline. We have no forecasts that show that we will decline, but that we will plateau, but the growth will still be continuing at the high school. So by the end of this decade, we're talking about adding another 300 plus students to the high school. Next year, we'll have the largest freshman class coming in the history of Shaker High School. Right now, our graduating class, our senior class, has about 500 students. They will be graduating in another month or so, but the class that comes in behind them, the freshman class, has about 650. So the growth is really coming in the younger grades. And I know the students who are here in the high school can tell you, the hallways are crowded even as it is now. So add another 150 and it's going to be crowded. Something else that we think is interesting, and I think it's worth talking about, is New York State as a whole over the last decade has lost about 9% of its public school children in grades K through 12 as people have left the state. And that is pretty much true regionally. So as you can see, these are districts that are in our region, and you can see that we've grown by over 800 students in this time, 16% in this last decade. And right now, that number is outdated. On Monday night, our most recent update was 6,198 students. So we're just two students shy of 6,200. The next closest district to us is Niskayuna, who has grown, but you can see it's only about a third of our growth. And then every other district in our region, much like the state, has actually declined in their student population. So we really continue to grow, and we continue to forecast that growth. And that is one of the reasons why we think this build is necessary. We're going to show you a quick video if the technology works, when we're very hopeful. We had a lot of help with the technology, so thank you for everybody here with your technical support, because we do think some of the visuals in here help to paint a picture.
Superintendent of the North Colonie Central School District. I'm excited to talk to you about our capital project, which will be on the ballot on May 21st. This project will be focused on Shaker High School. In May of 2017, we concentrated primarily on the elementary schools and the middle school, because as you know, we've had a tremendous growth in enrollment in North Colonie. So we created a beautiful 6 through 8 middle school, and we converted our elementary buildings to K-5. What we cut out of the project was Shaker High School, because the growth in enrollment would obviously hit there later. Shaker High School is a vibrant and wonderful place filled with incredibly curious and active students. Shaker High School opened in 1958. At that time, there were approximately 1,100 students enrolled in grades 7 through 12. Currently, Shaker High School has 2,100 students, and it is forecasted to have over 2,300 students by the end of this decade. We are teaching students here in the 21st century in a building that was largely constructed in the 1950s.
The high school is in need of a facelift and renovation, and not just for aesthetics, but also for our capacity and our ability to really serve our students in different content areas.
There's definitely a lot of challenges with just like the space that we have right now. It's very, very outdated. With a physics or a chemistry sort of class where it's more hands-on, can really like limit what you're able to do.
Currently, I'm enrolled in AP Biology, and in the full class, we have about 30 kids, but even fitting about 20 people in here trying to do a lab has been very, very difficult.
I have been in, I think, every single art classroom we've had. The biggest issue I think we have with this space is that there's not enough room. The class gets shut down really quick because there's so many kids who want to take ceramics classes.
For all of our students, our #1 goal in North Colonie is that they can find their passion, whatever it is, and we want to make sure that this building project, whether you're a scientist, an artist, a musician, a robotics student, whatever your passion is, we have the facilities here that can help you grow your skills, develop your passions, and help you to see how you can make meaningful contributions to our world.
The district leadership team has worked hard to develop a scope of work for this project that mitigates the tax impact to the community. The total cost of the project is estimated to be approximately $94.1 million, but we are in a very favorable position to receive almost 78% building aid back on the cost of the project. New York State incentivizes school districts to improve their campuses through the provision of building aid, so the taxpayers will end up spending approximately $20.6 million after building aid is applied.
The capital project vote will be scheduled on the same day as our annual school budget vote. This year it's Tuesday, May 21st. The voting is at the district office, which is 91 Fiddler's Lane. We're open from 6 a.m. for all of you who like to come before work, and we're here till 9 p.m. at night. North Colonie residents who are registered voters are able to request a ballot and vote by mail this year. If you would like to request a ballot, simply scan the QR code that's on the screen, or go to our North Colonie website to request your ballot at any time.
So the one thing that is not true in that video is we're no longer able to have people request ballots. It's too late. So, but we will still be there from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the 21st for people to vote in person. So if you look behind me, we have a rendering of Shaker High School. This is the first floor of Shaker High School, and we want to just orient you to what you see. So anything that is outlined in orange is something that will be a new addition to the building. Anything that is not outlined in orange but is in color is something that will be a renovation to the building. So on the far side, you see outlined in orange classrooms in purple. That's what we call J-Wing. J-Wing is the newest section of the building, and it was voted on in 1999. So the newest part of the building is 25 years old. And at that time, people were already predicting that this town was going to grow and that this district was going to grow. So we have classrooms on one side, and then we just have windows on the other. It was always built so if the growth did happen, we could quickly put up classrooms on the other side. And so we're adding all those additional classrooms in purple. Around the corner, you see it's like a pinkish color. That's going to be a renovation to one of our bathrooms. I'm going to talk more about that later. In the middle, you see in the aqua color, on the two sides in the lighter green, those are our two cafeterias. In between the two in the darker green, that is our kitchen area. And one of the things about North Colonie as a district and the high school specifically is we're very landlocked. We don't have a lot of extra property, so we have very limited space to build out. We absolutely need more seating space in our cafeterias. We need more serving lines. And so what we'll be doing there is the part that's in the middle, that's the dark green, that is our kitchen. That is original to the building from the 1950s. It is oversized because all the equipment at that point was really large, and we don't even use most of it anymore. We just haven't been able to get it out. So with using more modern appliances, we can reduce the size of that kitchen, and our goal is to reduce it so it's about a third of its size and give the rest of that space back to the students for eating spaces and for multiple lunch lines, because we want them to be able to go through the lunch line quickly and spend time sitting down, enjoying their lunch, and not waiting in long lines. So that will be in the middle. And then at the far side that you see in the blue, that is our auditorium space. Our auditorium is also original to the building from the 1950s. You heard in the video that when the building was originally constructed, it was a grade 7 through 12 with 1,100 students. That auditorium has 700 seats. At the time, that was groundbreaking to have a 700-seat auditorium in a public high school for 1,100 students. Well, now you just heard we're actually the 4th largest district in the region. Schenectady City Schools is biggest, Albany is 2nd, Shenandoah is 3rd, North Colonie is 4th. So we're the 4th biggest district, but we actually now have the 2nd smallest auditorium. We can't fit everybody. Last night we had senior awards. There were people standing at the back. We can't fit them all in. The stage is small. In the yearbook that you saw, that was the 1959 yearbook, the orchestra originally had in that yearbook 13 students. We now have 130 students that we're trying to fit on the same exact stage. So we really need to expand that. Because we are landlocked, we don't have really, we're gonna add a little bit of space, we'll make the stage bigger, and we're gonna push out the lobby to make it appropriately sized. But what we're going to do in order to make space is think about city planning. When they don't have space, they build up. So we're going to raise the roof and we're gonna add a balcony so that we can have extra space there, because we really can't expand anymore. And then on the left-hand side of that are our 2 rehearsal spaces for our orchestra and our band when they come together, and they are also undersized. So we'll take a look at some of these. On the left-hand side, you see a current classroom at Shaker High School. I see some of the students smiling because I think they probably sat in that classroom. It does still have chalkboards. It does still have an old-fashioned tube TV that I'm not sure even works anymore. It has these single unit desks that are incredibly heavy and impossible to move around if students are working in groups or with partners. And so that is a classroom in need of renovation. On the right, you see one of the classrooms that's been renovated in our middle school. And you can see that there's different levels of seating. Everything in there is on wheels. You can see different spaces. So at any point, the teacher can move the classroom around. The students can be working independently in a small group, in a larger group. And that's the kind of flexibility we need as we push into this next century of teaching and learning. The bathrooms. So when we surveyed our community, we got a lot of responses, particularly from the students. The number one request of the students in their survey was to do something about the bathrooms, and the number one concern of the parents actually in the community was to do something about the bathrooms. So on the lower right is what a typical bathroom looks like for us. The students enter from the hallway. There are multiple stalls, multiple sinks. They are stalls. They are not floor to ceiling. There's an opening at the top, an opening at the bottom. They're very typical of bathrooms of schools that were constructed at this time. And the upper part you see in our research, what we've come to see is happening in different schools is we're building private single stall bathrooms that have full doors on them so that you go in, you lock the door behind you. It now says that it is occupied. It has the toilet in there, but you can see the sinks are out in the public space, so there's better supervision so that for students who are just trying to get in between classes and then move quickly to their next class, it flows that much more efficiently, and it also allows students to go in and not have to worry about who else might be in there, what they might be up to, and any kind of trouble that they're concerned about. So this is a big renovation for us throughout the entire building. The cafeteria renovation, when I have shown this before, the picture on the left, which is the very narrow line, in other presentations, parents have thought that is one of our elementary cafeterias because the line is so narrow. That is not. That is our 9th and 10th grade cafeteria line. And you can see how narrow it is, and that is why students spend a lot of time in the line. They have to go through that line and then get to the end and get to the register. On the right, that's actually our middle school cafeteria that's been renovated, and you can see in the front that there's a woman standing. You see the service line, it's curved, kids can go up and enter it at any point where they need to get their food, and then in the background, there's an actual duplicate of that. So there's multiple lines that they can go to, they can enter at any point, and then the cash registers are all in the front so that they can check out to anyone that is open and available. You see these kinds of things in like hospital cafeterias, where they have to really move a lot of people through. So again, we want that because we don't want students spending their whole lunch period standing in line. We want them to have the opportunity to take a break and socialize a little bit during the day. The auditorium, Mr. Stein and I disagree about this. I actually think that's a pretty good picture of the auditorium. I think they did a good job on the top. But you can see that has every single light in the auditorium on, and you can see there's still pockets of shadows. It was built in the 1950s. It is not ADA compliant, so that means it's not inclusive for all of our families. So we want to change that. Beneath it, you can see the middle school auditorium. That auditorium is obviously smaller, but you can see it has the appropriate sound panels on the ceilings for acoustics. It has the appropriate light mounting, not what we've done, which is fix and repair and fix and repair at the high school. So we'll upgrade that and we'll add the balcony. And then on the right-hand side are the performance spaces. The band room is at the high school right now. It is very crowded. It is a very small space. Kids don't have places for their bags, for their instruments. Below that is the the rehearsal space at the middle school. And you can see all around the perimeter there is storage that has been designed specifically for instruments, so it fits their instruments. It gives them much more space. The roof is higher, and again, we need the higher ceilings for acoustics, so that will be changed for the high school so that we have a comparable space in the high school to what they have in the middle school currently. This is the second floor of Shaker High School. So again, just to orient you, you see J-Wing again, and you can see it outlined in orange. We'll be adding additional classrooms. And then what you see is a lot of green. Everything that is up there in green right now will become a renovated science laboratory. As it exists, you saw it in the video, students have, in most cases, science class in one room and then they go later in the week to a different lab to actually do the science and do the experiments. That is not the way we learn about science these days. We want it to be interactive, where students are learning in the same space where they're doing some book learning and then they're actually doing the work. And so all of that green, and we'll show you some pictures, will be renovations. In the pink, those are 2 art classrooms that will be renovated, and then that is the upstairs where you can see the balcony that will go on to the auditorium. As we open up the lobby and make that 2 stories, the upstairs of the lobby will also become a new space for our art gallery. Currently, our students do amazing work. They are always winning awards for their artwork, but it's down a hallway and it's tucked away. We want their work to be celebrated, and so we want more of a public space so that we can display their talents for everyone to enjoy. So our science labs, you saw a little bit of this in the video, and you can see it there. The students talked about it. There are these lab spaces that are really set up mostly for 20, but we now have about 30 students in our science labs. So the rendering that's on the right is from actually a local high school that we looked at. And the goal there, as you can see, is there's a section in the back where students are seated and doing, say, lab reports or book work. There's a demonstration station for the teacher. And then to the right is all the lab space. So as students are ready, like, okay, we've done our paperwork, we've done our mathematics, now we're going to come over and work on the science, then we can flex back. So instead of having to learn about it 3 days in a row and then 2 days later go to a lab and actually apply it, you're applying it in real time. This is much more like what they'll experience when they go to college if they're studying science. This is much more like what science labs actually look like than our labs. I have said many times, and I will say again tonight, our science labs were built a decade before man walked on the moon. They are really dated. They have not been renovated. And so we really need to update them so we can give our students the best experience possible. When we do this, we will also work on some of the infrastructure. So anytime we're in one of the hallways, we're going to be working on the wiring, we're going to be working on the heating and cooling, we're going to be working on the plumbing, just like you would in your house. One of the other things we really have to work on is our roof. The high school roof has had significant damage over the years with some of the storms that have come through, and we have repaired it and repaired it and repaired it. And as you probably know, for your own roof, you can only repair so often, and then you have to get a new roof. So we will be adding a significant sections of roofing to the high school, which is obviously very expensive, and that will be a part of this project. And then you see what is currently our lighting area at the high school for the auditorium. That will be taken away because we don't need all that space, because now lights are all run, you know, all this technology. You don't need all this space, and that's where we'll start to find the space for our balcony. In the middle is our sign that sits out in front of Shaker High School. It is near and dear to our hearts. It's a big part of tradition ever since the building opened, and anytime we want to change the sign, a student has to go out and physically change the letters on the sign. We love the tradition of it. However, we would love to have that be a digital sign. So we'll keep the pillars, we'll keep the Shaker High School heading, but instead of having the part where there are letters, it is really important because we know people pass that all the time, and if we could be sending out information on that sign, that could be very useful to people. I was saying a few weeks ago when the high school had the musical, it was the weekend that we had a storm, even though it was later in March, and we had to cancel the Saturday night performance. We had to delay the Sunday matinee. It would have been amazing if somebody at home could have just put that on their computer and gotten that on the sign. So if anybody was coming in, they wouldn't have even tried to turn into the driveway. It was slippery, and we obviously weren't able to do that. And then the last picture you see is that the art gallery as it currently is. That's the hallway I was talking about, where it's really tucked away. We'll still keep part of that, but then we'll add the new space that will be above the lobby for the auditorium to allow our work to be celebrated in a more of an open air space. We also will be making some changes to our athletic field. So on the top left, you see our current athletic field, which is Walker Field, and below it, you see our field called Malloy. If you have been on the high school property, the one thing you will know, or Blue Creek property around here, we are surrounded by wetlands, and when it rains here, it really rains, and the water is everywhere. And as I say to the new principal of Blue Creek, it's called Blue Creek for a reason. There is water running everywhere. Our field that is down there that you see in that picture, and you can see some of the puddles, that's where we play soccer, that's where we play lacrosse. In the spring in particular, we are constantly scrambling to reschedule our games. It's not available because it's quite often flooded. And you can almost see there, that's the gate that the students enter from outside to get onto the field to play. And that area gets so much water that they've actually put a plank of wood to walk over to get there so that they don't have to trod through that. So we'll replace that with a synthetic surface so that it will be safer for the kids and it will be used all year long. To the right, you see the lights. So the lights, I'm going to start with the ones that are on the bottom. Those are currently our lights on our Walker Field, and they are old-fashioned halogen lights. They are not energy efficient at all. They cost a lot of money to run. And one of the things you can see is the way that they work, they're pointing out. They're not actually pointing down on the field because they have to push out to let the light blanket. But what happens is, if you've ever been on 155 in the fall when it's getting dark out a little bit earlier and there's a game there, those lights illuminate the whole neighborhood. Mr. Stein lives about a mile away and he can see them at his house. So what we're going to replace them with is what's above, which is LED lighting. First of all, it's much more energy efficient. They'll pay for themselves within 2 years. But you can also see they get directed right on the field. So to all our neighbors, we will no longer light up all their houses when we're doing contests at night, and we'll keep the light on the field where it belongs. So something that you saw, and I think this is important to talk about, is you saw Mrs. Howard, who was our assistant superintendent for business, talking about the cost and the tax impact. And I would say there are 3 things to remember about the capital project. One is we really are facing continued growth in enrollment, and we really don't have any more space in the high school. We don't have a single classroom that isn't used every period of the day. So 1 is enrollment. 2 is the programmatic upgrades. In order to teach science the way that we want to teach science, we can't do it in those spaces. You heard the art students say that we have to close out art classes, and we have to do lotteries on some of those classes because we don't have enough space. But then the 3rd is we're really well positioned right now for this capital project. I referenced in the video the project that we did back in 2017. At that point, New York State gave us 55% aid on the project. So New York State as a whole paid 55%, and our local taxpayers paid 45%. Since our enrollment continues to grow, we've had debt come off, we're now at a point where New York State will pay 78% as a whole. So our local taxpayer share is 22%. So although it's over $94 million worth of renovations, the project impact for our local taxpayers is about $20.5 million. It is on an average assessed home in North Colony, it is about $3 a week in a tax increase. And that would not come online right away. That would come online probably about 2027, sorry. We're long past 2017. There are a couple things on the ballot this year. So we're used to voting, obviously, on the budget. We're used to voting on people for our Board of Education. This year we'll vote on the budget, we'll vote for the Board of Education, we'll vote for the capital project, and then also something called our capital reserve. So speaking of 2017, back in 2017, the voters gave the district the authority to establish a capital reserve fund, a savings account, where we could put money away so that when we needed to make improvements on the building in the future, things that were expensive, a $2 million roofing project, a $3 million upgrade that we wouldn't put in part of the budget, we would have money set aside and we would want to take money out at some future point in time. We are proposing that we now have about $11 million in that savings account. We are proposing this year to take out $5.7 million. So this is not new taxes, this is not new money, but we do have to ask the voters, may we take this money out of the savings account in order to get these capital improvements done? Now you might think, well, if you're going to do this project, then why also do these capital improvements through the capital reserve? The building project, as part of New York State, goes through an incredible incredibly rigorous process in order to get approved. So should the vote go through next week and we get approved by our voters, the next step would be that our architects finalize plans, they go to state ed, and that process takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months for state ed planning to say, okay, North Colony, we think everything you have is designed perfectly, it's safe, you have the green light, you can start your project. That doesn't mean the next day we can put the shovel in the ground. That simply means the next day we can get ready to put everything out to bid. So we'll need a general contractor, we'll need an electrical contractor, we'll need a heating and cooling contractor. That takes several months. So long story short, if this passes next week, and this is 2024, most likely it will not be through the state ed process by the summer of 25. And while we can always work second shift, we always prefer to work in the summer when we can make sure there aren't any kids on campus. Summer is our best time. We will most likely miss summer of 25. All of these things that are part of our capital reserve, they have to go through a process at state ed, but it's a very quick process. So we can start these projects in the summer of 25 so that we can get a head start while we're waiting for the capital project. And this covers all kinds of different things within the district. We need some upgrades to our district-wide radio. Cell reception in this area is not particularly great. In the event of an emergency, cell service gets clogged, we need to be able to communicate across the district, so that's one of the things we're gonna do. Then I talked about some of those infrastructure things. So water heater replacements, it's a necessity. It's not as exciting as our new classrooms, but it's really a necessity. And the number we need, that's over $500,000 just to replace water heaters. We're going to do some projects at Blue Creek in their cafeteria, do some abatement work, and at Loudonville. We're going to improve the ventilation at Latham Ridge in their gymnasium area, which is very much needed. In Southgate, Latham Ridge, and Blue Creek, we're gonna be adding sound panels. Those cafeterias are really loud and the kids need a little quiet time. So by adding those, we can kind of calm the cafeterias for the kids. We're going to add gymnasium equipment upgrades to all of our elementary buildings. We're going to get going on these single occupancy bathrooms. We heard loud and clear from the students that this was a #1 priority. So every hall that we touch in the capital project, we'll be renovating those bathrooms, but with this capital reserve, we'll get ahead of it. And in C wing, in D wing, and in E wing, we will go in and start converting those bathrooms right away next summer. We are going to add a secure entrance to our athletics area where a gym is. Currently, if people come in at night and they're coming to an athletic program, they come in the main entrance of the building. They have to kind of tunnel through and find their way to the gym. That's not the safest way. So instead, we'll have a separate entrance for our gym. It'll have a secure vestibule, one way in, one way out, improving our security. We have an elevator for our students with disabilities that needs to be upgraded. We're going to resurface the gym floor at the high school. We are going to replace the main storm drain. The last couple weeks when it's been raining, if you drive by the high school where that sign is, it's like a river runs through it. It's because we need a new storm drain, so we're going to replace that. And then our track, our running track, is at the end of its useful life. We did not touch it in the last project, so it's starting to have dips and valleys in it, so it needs to be resurfaced so it's safe for our community to use as well as our students to use, and we'll replace the fencing around the track at the same time. So when we think about that and we talk about the election, what does it look like on the 21st? So as I mentioned, so the first part is the ballot. So the ballot is the budget. So it is, do you approve the budget, yes or no? The second part is the Board of Education. Matt Cannon, who is our current vice president, is running again, and he is running unopposed. And then Penny Grinnell, who has been on our board and served admirably, is retiring from the Board of Education. So we have two people who are competing for her seat, Aisha Jeter and Justin John. And then, in addition, as I said, we have to vote on the capital project. Now, everything on the ballot has to be approved by the attorneys so it meets the standards of the state of New York. So we have to put for the capital project the total cost of $94 million. So even though we know that the state is going to pay $78 million, we have to say this is the full project. And so there's a part of me that wishes we could put in parentheses, it's 20.5 to the taxpayers, but we cannot. So that's why we want to make sure everybody is informed so that they can make the best decision possible for their vote. And then the transfer to capital, which again is not spending more money, it's simply saying, yes, you can take the money out of your savings account to make these improvements throughout the district. So the budget for this year, the current year that we're in, the operating budget for the district, so forget the capital project. As I was talking to the students, this is what it costs us to run the district. And I like to remind people that we don't always think about this, but we are the single largest employer in the town of Colonie. So we are a very big organization. We have over 1,000 employees. We serve 6,200 students. So our annual operating budget this year was $146.9 million. Without thinking about the transfer to capital money that we're going to spend, our proposed budget for next year is going up about $1.4 million or 0.95%. So budget to budget increase is less than 1% for next year. And even with that, we're adding new programs and we're adding new staff. And so we're very proud. We're not reducing any staff. In fact, we're adding staff and we're adding some new programs. You may know that several years ago, many now, Governor Cuomo came up with a tax cap which limits how much municipalities and school districts can raise taxes, and it's a complicated formula. We have to do it every year. This year when we did the formula, the maximum we could raise taxes for our vote to pass with a simple majority was 3.61%. We are not going out at 3.61%, we're going out at 2.5%. We know inflation, we know things are expensive, so we don't want to go all the way out to the 3.6. The estimated tax rate increase, however, is 1.62. So what does that mean? The town is growing. So 2.5% is the amount we can raise in taxes in total. But as the district grows and more houses come online and more businesses come online, there are more people now paying into that. So with more people paying in, everybody's share goes down a little bit. So although we're raising 2.5 in totality to an individual homeowner or business, it feels like 1.62%. One of the things we do have to show, however, is on the ballot, we have to put the total cost of what is the operating budget plus that $5.7 million that we're taking out of the capital reserve. So we have to say to our voters, this is what we're going to be spending in totality. So if you look, and we did this slide second because it's a little bit complicated, but you see that number of 154 million, and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, on the last slide, you just said it was only going up by 1.4. And yet, if I look up here, it says 7.1 million. Why is that? Because that includes the 5.7 million we're taking out of the capital reserve. So it looks like the budget is going up by 4.83%, but in fact, the budget to budget is only going up less than 1%. That, by law, we just have to show you this is the total that we're spending. This is the part that I have to share, and it's the part that I don't even like to say out loud, but it is a contingent budget. This is what happens in New York State if a school budget fails. So next Tuesday, the 21st, there are over 700 school districts in New York State. Every single one of them, every single public school district next Tuesday will vote on their budget. If a budget goes down and the voters say, like, nope, we vote no, then what does a district do? Because this is the money we need to just run every day. Well, you put the budget up again. You can put it up exactly the same and see if you get a better result the second time. You can put it up slightly changed and see if you get a better result. But if the second time it fails again, then by New York State law, you must adopt a contingent budget. What does that mean? That means you cannot raise taxes at all. So while I just said we're gonna collect 2.5% from everyone, for North Colony next year, that 2.5% translates to $2.3 million. That's how we're gonna fund extra teachers. That's how we're gonna fund some of these new programs. If there were a contingent budget, we would have to take that 2.3 million away and figure out how do we cut $2.3 million out of our operating budget. And you can't do that just being a little bit wiser with your supplies. You can't just use a little bit less paper or fewer paper clips. Really, the only way to get to a total like $2.3 million is to think about reducing programs, to think about cutting staff, using more fund balance, or some combination thereof. So it is a very difficult place for any school district that has to operate under a contingent budget. And in addition to that, New York State also puts some other restrictions. If you are, for the full year that you have a contingent budget, you cannot purchase any new equipment. So if something breaks during the school year, unless you can prove it's an absolute emergency to repair and to replace, you cannot buy any new equipment. You cannot spend any money on capital expenditures. So you might say, like, well, you have that 11 million, let's use that then, let's get some of this work done. Nope, you can't do anything. So even though we have the money, we couldn't do it. And then you also cannot have any of your facilities used by any outside organization. So none of the buildings, none of the playgrounds, none of the fields, the track, anything, everything has to be shut down. It's open during the day for the students, and no outside organizations. And a lot of our youth sports use our campus all the time. We have community groups who use our buildings all the time. We see ourselves as obviously a community resource, but for that year under a contingent budget, by law, we cannot be. So our budget vote, Tuesday, May 21st, it's at the Goodrich Building, which is our district office, 91 Fiddler's Lane. It's at the corner of Fiddler's and 155. We open at 6 a.m. We close at 9 p.m. We are there and happy to host anybody. We do know that some people have put in mail-in ballot requests. We actually received over 500 requests for mail-in ballots. So if you're somebody who's coming in person, hopefully that means there's 500 fewer people to find parking spaces and less traffic, so it'll make your experience there a little bit easier. But we encourage everyone to come out and vote. You know, it is the way to have your voice heard, and we encourage you to come and have your voice heard and think about how you would like our community to move forward. Thank you. We're happy to take any questions or comments, of course.
Thank you, Superintendent Skills. That was a very informative and thorough presentation. Before we go into questions, Linda, do you want to say a few words, President Harris?
I think the Skills did a great job.
Excellent. Excellent. So we'll open it to questions, and I wanted to see if anyone have any questions, but I will ask that we keep the questions to the subject on hand. I know that some of you might have other questions and other items that we've mentioned we've been working on with the school district.
Do you every year review how many employees you have, and if you are overemployed, and if you should cut down?
We do. So each department, and one of the things that I can say is, thank you so much. We do that in each of the departments, and one of the things that we have seen with some of our fellow school districts is as they have had declining enrollment, they have been able to eliminate positions because their number of students is going down. So maybe they don't need as many second grade teachers because they have fewer students. For us, we look every time there is either a resignation or a retirement to see if we have to fill that position or if we can do it differently. So we've had a couple of times where we have been able to reduce because through efficiencies as people have left. But as it comes to for us with teachers, we have not been able to make those reductions. But that is something we look at with each and every year, but also every time something comes up, whether it's on cycle or off cycle. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, when was the last time a budget was not passed?
So the district has been very successful in getting our budgets passed. So our budgets have always passed. The last time we had something go down was in 2016. So in 2016, that capital project went down. We went back, we cut it down, and we literally, in that time, we were trying to get enhanced aid from the state. And so we were trying to put the high school in at the same time. When that went down, we made the decision to cut everything from the high school out of that project because we knew the growth was at the younger end, and that was where the immediate need was, and hence why much of what we have in the project now was what we had hoped to do back in 2016. So that was the last time something went down. Thank you.
I have a quick question to that before. The 78% that's from the state, is that a guaranteed that the school district is getting, or is it contingent on, do you have to compete with other school districts to get that?
So that's a great question. We have a conservative business office. We always have, so we always are careful to make sure all of our projections are conservative. We actually think it's going to be higher than that. We actually think it's going to be closer to 80% or 81%. But yes, so that is a pool of money that's paid for by all, 17 million residents of New York State that's available to all school districts. So that is a given that is available to us.
Oh, go ahead.
So just to follow up on that, is that so if you get higher than that amount, then does what you get approved for with the tax levy, does that amount still go to you and go to the reserve, or?
So our number one goal, obviously, and this is what happened with the 2017 project, is to come in on time and on or under budget. And so we were able to do that. And so with that, the taxpayers approve us spending up to a certain amount of money. So we never go above that, but then we are able to do some of those extra like infrastructure. So we were able to get a couple of extra things done. And so that is how we use that.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful presentation. Just one quick clarification. The $20 million gap that you were saying on the tax bills, will that be reflected in our bill as a capital tax line, or it will be included in our school taxes and that will stay forever kind of?
It will be included in your school taxes, probably coming online. It starts on your school tax when we start to take out the loans to pay for it. So we're estimating that would be the 2017-18 school year. It does not stay on your taxes forever. It stays during the length of the term of that loan. I said 17-18 again. I don't know why I want to go back in time. Thank you. 27-28. Oh, sure. The question was, does the part of the tax that pays for the capital project, does that show up in your school tax bill or as a separate line? And it does show up in your school tax bill, but it is not there forever. It is for the term of the loan that we take out for the capital project.
Are there any plans for renewable energy when you're doing the heating and cooling? I know that's becoming more expensive, but maybe play out in the long term.
So absolutely, because there are actually a lot of grants right now, both from the state government and the federal government, for when you are doing renovations, if you are renovating in ways that are looking at using solar power or replacing regular lights with LED lights. So we did that with the middle school project, and we will do that with this project as well. Great question, and a passion of mine.
Any other questions? Go ahead, please.
So it was how long will it take to complete the project? Once we get the process started, it will, everything that you see in this is scheduled to be complete in the I'm going to get it right this time, I'm not going to say 2019, 2029, 2030 school year. So it'll get phased in. We're going to start with J-Wing because we need the extra classroom space. So we're just starting there because we desperately need the space, and then we'll go in phases. But in totality, 2030, with any luck, 2029, but we're projecting 2030. Thank you.
Go ahead.
During construction, you may be losing space for a short period of time. How will you accommodate with the growth?
That is a big puzzle, and new principal, Mr. Puccioni, is going to be a big part of that. So as we did with the middle school, we will phase it out, hence why we're starting with J-Wing, so we can start swinging classes there. They will not immediately open as those science labs. They will open as classrooms so that we can renovate the other sections of the building, and we will move space to space. There will be a season where the auditorium will go offline. Our music supervisor is already aware of that and already has plans for other places so that we can still have our concerts and we can still have our theater productions in other venues. Yes. Sure. So that 2.5% is for this year's operating budget. So that is separate from the capital project. If that is this year's tax levy. So that is not impacted by this. However, with the building aid, if the building aid comes up a little bit more, depending on what it is, we can either put it into the capital reserve so that we can do more projects, we can get some work done, or there is an ability to return it to the taxpayer. Correct.
Our tax will be fixed across the board. Like, it's going to increase immediately, or is it going to also increase gradually until 2029?
Good question. So it will. So once it starts, it will stay consistent. So it will. If it starts in 2027, I'm going to say that right this time. That will be the rate. So because we're going out for the loans for the project. So even though it's happening, we'll be going out in that rate. So your rates will, and that's one of our goals, is to get them to level off. Like, we haven't done a lot of projects in this district. You'll see many other districts do a lot of smaller projects so that you don't have these bigger projects to have to do, because we want people's taxes to stay consistent. So that will come out consistently, and that will all get figured out and shared with the public as we land on whatever the rates are and things like that. So that is a projection right now, but we don't have the exact. It's about $3 per household, but that will come out as we get closer to 2027. Those are estimates in this year's time and money.
So then that means we are voting on approving the project right now, and then we again vote on the tax, whatever increases at that year.
Correct. Correct.
Basically voting for it twice in that sense.
So you vote every year on the annual operating budget. So you'll vote on those taxes every year. And that is one of the reasons we're not going out to the tax cap, because we know in a few years we're going to have this additional impact come on. But then every year from this point forward, you'll just be voting on your annual budget.
What kind of a buy-in do you have from other, I'm sure you're reaching out to other communities?
Mm-hmm. We employ about 1,000. We serve about 6,000. So I will tell you, much like the high school students, in speaking with the high school teachers, they are very enthused about this project, even though they know it'll be a couple of years of maybe having to move a classroom or pack up a classroom, but the idea of the renovations that are very much needed. We have heard a lot of positives, and we know that there are people who might have different views, but we've really heard a lot of positives, because I think people, when they come into the high school, one of the first things they recognize is we have a lot of people who stay here and then their children go here, their grandchildren go here. And, you know, we just had an experience where we had the class of 1974 come in for their reunion. So they're on their 50-year reunion. And the first thing they came in and they were like, it looks exactly the same. Yes, it does. So we do feel that there is good energy and buy-in, but we'll find out more on Tuesday.
We have time for one more question before, go ahead. You were very soft-spoken. So
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. Mine is actually about the renovation, if that's okay. My first question is, are plans for the renovation final, or are you guys still tweaking those?
That will be the next phase. So the architectural projects get in, and then as we get to the stage of the renovations, then there are meetings with all the program managers, so like the science supervisor or the art supervisor. And at the high school, we also really want to involve the kids in those renovations because they have great ideas. No, in the past, when we did the middle school, we had our community in, and we had a series of nights and afternoons at actually we used the high school to go through different renderings and different drawings. So yes, thank you.
okay, if no one have any more questions, I'm gonna invite Sheikh Jafar to come up and give us a few final remarks. Thank you all for the presentation, and thank you all for staying for the presentation as well.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. First of all, thank you for the leadership of North Colonie School District for being here. I know some of you have been over here several times, and I would like you to keep coming. I'm sure the community would like to see you and would like to have good relationships with you. I would like to say 2 points. Point number 1 is for the school leadership. About 20 years ago, when we started having the plans for building this mosque, it took only a few years later, I remember very well, 2008, when we started having the groundbreaking. People from many areas start asking the questions, when this mosque is going to be finished, because they would like to move. And we know as soon as the structures start getting up, people start moving in the area. And the 2 reasons that they were asking why they would like to move is they would like to have a good community that they would like to be part of it, and they would like to have a good school district. So now you see very clearly how the institution, our institution, Al-Hidaya Center, and your school district, our school district, they can work together for a good goal, and we can really cooperate very well. So from that perspective, the community, and I can speak for our community over here, we are very much interested in making sure our school district is advancing. I'm glad to hear that while some other school districts, maybe the number is going down, our school districts, the number is going up, and I'm glad that we are part of that growth. And we contributed to that growth. And I am sure if we as a community do a good job in running our center and attracting people to fulfill their needs, spiritual needs, educational needs, social needs, and psychological needs, I'm sure that will reflect on the school district as well. So from that perspective, the community actually is really interested and would like to work with the school district for that growth, but in the same time, they have concerns. And they would like to address those concerns. Maybe this is not the right time for that, but hopefully we will find a forum where there will be that kind of communication where we can see how some of those concerns are being addressed. How can we help actually addressing those concerns and help you hopefully achieving those kind of goals. The second point that I would like to say, I can see when the budget was being presented, there was so much emphasis on the physical infrastructure. And most of the money that's being talked about is going there. But I'm sure the community is interested also to see improvement on other matters that are related to human relationships, that are related to the content of education, that are really related to preparing our children for the next generation. So the money is important, infrastructure, I'm sure it's very important, but actually there are other areas that are important as well. And we would like to be part of that discussion. So hopefully there will be another arrangement for another meeting where we would like to sit down and discuss some of those things. And I would like to reassure you that our community, our center, our leadership are ready to help, and they are willing to be a partner in this kind of discussion, because we would like to see the entire capital district, but particularly our North Colonie School District, successful. Thank you very much, and welcome. خلاص.
Thank you all for coming, and please, as Superintendent Skills mentioned, please make every effort to go on May 21st to go and vote and be involved in the vote as well. Yes, we did send the link on, and I had sent the link previously for those. I guess just to clarify, for those that did request mail-in ballots, can they bring the ballots with them to there, or do they have to mail? What's the process if they did request a mail-in ballot?
Thank you so much. So if they requested a mail-in ballot and they have it, they can put it in the mail, but it, obviously it's the mail, and today is Friday, so we might worry about that. So we actually have a locked ballot box right out in front of central office. It's bright blue, it's right near the front stairs, so you don't even have to come in. You can kind of just drive up and pop it in like a regular mailbox, and we'll have it locked there. So if people have those ballots and they want to return them that way, they can do that as well. Immediately. It's there right now.
Don't have to wait till Tuesday.
Correct. It'll be there all weekend.
Thank you so much, everyone, and I will adjourn the meeting for now. Thank you.